Bienvenidos una vez más a Pop Corner, soy Uribe DJ y estuve conversando con los actores y con el director de una película que me pareció fantástica y siento que es una de las grandes sorpresas comenzando este 2025. Si les gusta el terror y la comedia bien dark, tienen que ver Compañera. Antes de comenzar, debo decirles que si quieren disfrutar al máximo de esta película, no vean nada antes. No vean el tráiler, no lean reseñas. Es más, si quieren, no vean todavía este video. Regresen cuando la hayan visto y así me cuentan también cómo les pareció.
2 hours later.
Muy bien, habiendo dicho esto, entremos en materia. Companion, o Compañera Perfecta como se le llama en español, es una película que fusiona elementos de ciencia ficción, terror y comedia muy oscura, como les decía anteriormente, pero que al mismo tiempo tiene una narrativa bien intrigante y bastante provocativa. Los protagonistas de esta película son el joven Jack Quaid, el hijo del actor Dennis Quaid, a quienes ustedes conocen por la serie The Boys, y la joven Sophie Thatcher, que también ha hecho películas anteriormente bastante siniestras y oscuras como El hereje o la serie Yellow Jackets. Esta película se centra en tres parejas que van a pasar un fin de semana en una casa en un lago remotamente escondida en un bosque. Uno de esos temas que suele ser recurrente en cierto tipo de películas de terror de las que ustedes ya han visto mil veces, pero en este caso la película es la definición perfecta de la frase todo lo que puede salir mal va a terminar saliendo peor. Well, I think this is probably the twistiest, darkest comedic story I've seen in years.
Oh, great.
Do you remember what went through your minds when you first read this crazy script?
Yeah, I was like, I have to be a part of this.
Absolutely.
I know that I would be a fan of this even if I wasn't involved. So I'm like, I need to be a part of this movie. He really wrote one of the best scripts I've ever read, and it's raised the bar with anything else that I read. I'm like, well, it's got to be as good, if not better, than Companion. Like, that's just so good.
Yeah, I mean, I read the logline, but I'd completely forgotten the logline while reading it, and was so invested and felt for Iris so deeply.
Oh, yeah.
But then also, I am not used to playing roles like this, so I think there was something exciting within that, but then all of the technicalities within her, I was worried that I wouldn't be able to pull it off. And even within the audition scenes we had, hardest audition scenes I've ever done. We did the...
I was in that audition with you.
I know. And it was just felt impossible. Thank you.
You absolutely crushed it.
But I've never felt the feeling of, I don't know if I'll be able to pull this off. And I think that was so exciting. But again, yeah, I think Drew is a genius and blended so many genres together so effortlessly.
A través de la narrativa, esta película también nos invita a reflexionar sobre la dependencia que tenemos con la tecnología y las implicaciones éticas, morales y emocionales que todo esto trae consigo en nuestra forma de relacionarnos no solamente con las personas, sino con nosotros mismos. Normally in a movie, either you are the bad guy or you are the good guy. But in this movie, you go deep in both at the same time, Jack. How hard was to balance that, and which one was more fun to play?
Ooh, there is something kind of inherently more fun about playing the bad guy sometimes.
I'll do it.
You never played bad guy?
No, I know I want to.
Oh my gosh. Kat,
Never.
Do it. Someone do it. No, with Josh, it was really interesting because he's the bad guy who thinks he's the good guy. And that was a lot to wrap my head around. But I think the best villains don't see themselves as villains. And I think he's one of the most insecure characters I've ever played in my life. And I think all of his misdeeds are really just attributed to that. And so it was the process of kind of making sure that I always had empathy for the character. Despite him doing terrible things. I would watch a lot of movies like John Cusack in the 80s because that's who I think Josh thinks he is. So kind of tricking myself into having empathy for such a despicable guy. But yeah, one of the more complicated roles I've played, but it was so much fun to do. And Drew was such a guiding hand and all of that, so it's wonderful.
A medida que pasan los minutos, esta película se va complicando más y más a partir del momento en el que se descubre que uno de los miembros de este grupo es un robot de compañía. Esto no es un spoiler porque está en el tráiler que se lanzó antes de la película, desafortunadamente. Por eso les decía también que no vieran el tráiler. Y digo desafortunadamente porque aunque no afecta a la película como un todo, sí siento que fue un error haber soltado eso en el tráiler, porque hace parte de los cientos de giros inesperados que tiene esta historia.
This could go in so many different directions, and that's the fun of it. So people that know the twist and people that don't know the twist, after the reveal, suddenly everyone's enjoying it the exact same way. Everyone's like, okay, well, I don't know what's going to happen now, and I think that's the kind of fun, is the sleight of hand, kind of magicians, the robot reveal thing is kind of hiding all the other little twists and turns and swerves. Yeah.
How do you even prepare to act like a robot in a movie? Where do you find the inspiration for that?
It's funny because, I don't know, going into it, I had to think about the physical aspects of it, but the robots in the movie are the most human in the movie, and she has the most empathy within the movie. So it was I think so much was focused on your character rather than focusing on myself. Ooh. And it was a lot less internal. So I think, and it was finding, something a little off about her. This isn't trying to keep it naturalistic, but not too naturalistic and not too like myself. This probably felt, I think the journey she finds within herself, I can relate to, but this felt the furthest away from myself in weird ways too, because it was so technical and her posture was so straight and her voice was very smooth and she's so eager to please. It was difficult, but again, it's I didn't always have it in the back of my mind. It was just this physical switch that as soon as I had that costume on too, I was like, oh, I have to sit straight and act like a woman.
I think I saw some references to other movies in this one, right? Like the Terminator ones.
You're right. Yes, Terminator is Terminator 1 and Terminator 2 are they're two perfect, flawless movies, and I needed to have a little nod in there for sure.
Antes de continuar, si les está gustando este video, no olviden darle like y suscribirse al canal. También compártanlo con la gente que conozcan. Es la mejor forma en la que ustedes pueden apoyar a todos los que hacemos algún tipo de contenido. El cast de Companion es complementado por 3 jóvenes actores maravillosos. Megan Suri, que también ha trabajado anteriormente en ficción y terror. Lucas Cage, a quien muchos recuerdan recientemente por su aparición en la secuela de Smile. Y Harvey Guillén, un comediante fabuloso que hizo parte de una serie muy entretenida llamada What We Do in the Shadows. Y quise hablar con ellos también un par de minutos.
Hello.
Hola.
Hello guys, great work in this movie. I gotta tell you, it's a hell of a fun ride.
Amazing, thank you.
Obviously, all of you are no strangers to horror, but I think this is the first time that you approach the issue of technology. What do you like the most about it, and what scares you the most right now?
I love the fact that it's really a super original take on technology, and it's really its own story. I think it's hard to pinpoint who we're rooting for and maybe who we're not rooting for because of how the story works out. What scares me the most is also kind of rampant what runs in the movie. I think that as we are gaining more of a relationship towards technology, we're losing connection with humans and we're losing humanity's connection, which I think when we lose that, I don't know what that means for the world. You kind of walk out into the street nowadays and people don't even say hi anymore. They're just in their phones, and it's a sad reality that I hope, we kind of pick up onto sooner than later. We need each other to survive.
Lucas, I gotta tell you, your character from Smile 2 still haunts me to this day, man. But in this movie, you are, in a way, also controlled by other forces. From your actor's perspective, what do you think it is the key thing to deliver a good scare on screen?
I think delivering a good scare on screen comes down to not anticipating, keeping people on their toes, keeping yourself on your toes, surprising the audience, I think the best thing to do is maybe infuse as much comedy and lightness with the darkness, because I think the juxtaposition of the two is what makes the other one pay off better, and I think that's what I love so much about our movie Companion.
I always enjoy a good comedic relief, and Harvey, I think you are one of the great ones. But in this movie, you turned the knob a little bit the other way. How was it for you to explore that dark side in you?
It was nice to explore that, yeah, because talking to the director, we could easily fall into the trope of being like the comic relief, which is I've done that, so it's easy to be like, oh, this is the funny guy, but there's this humanity to him and this real love that he has for his partner, even though it's might be artificial love on one side, but we find out that it might not be. So the idea that sometimes we accept the love that we think we deserve is very important. And for me to tell that story was through comedy. So you drop your guard and then you let that be the message. It's kind of a cool thing.
Was it sexy?
Very sexy to be dark, and had to learn how to hold a gun. So, but yeah, it was nice to play a darker side, because sometimes comedy is always light and fun, but twisting, the knife a little bit is always great.
What do you think is the most fun and the most difficult part of shooting a horror movie, or a movie in general?
I think the most fun part of making a movie is the collaborative nature, and just recognizing that you don't need to have the answer to everything. And if you approach it with we'll make it a conversation, and let me hear your ideas, and we'll mix them with my ideas, and no ego is involved, and just best idea wins out. It just becomes so magical and fun, and it's like team effort. Filmmaking, I don't think is like a solo director's just it's my vision, and let's just make sure that that's what happens. It's like, no, that we're all here. I hired you because you're the best at your job, and let's just have fun. The hardest part is just there's never enough time in the day. Like the sun's going down, and you're just like the pressure of like, oh my gosh, we're running out of shots, and then it just becomes triage at that point. You just have to sacrifice certain shots to get through your day, and I don't think that problem goes away with no matter what budget you're at.
En conclusión, Compañera Perfecta o Companion es una propuesta cinematográfica que combina de manera muy efectiva elementos de diferentes géneros, con actuaciones muy sólidas y una narrativa que invita a la reflexión, que le va a encantar a todos aquellos interesados en esas historias que exploran las complejidades de la tecnología y de la vida misma, que les encantan los giros inesperados y las grandes sorpresas. Vayan a ver Companion, diviértanse y compren unas palomitas de maíz gigantes. ¿Les gusta el terror? ¿Les gusta la comedia oscura? Déjenme saber en los comentarios. Depending on how you use it right now, what piece of technology you think is most likely to try to kill you in the future?
My phone.
Yeah.
Raya.